What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. The dog days of summer have arrived. Where I'm located right now, it is hot, and depending where you're at in the country, those days are going to be upon us to where it gets hot and the fishing does get tough. But in this video today, Randy Blockett, Matt Steffen, and myself are going to share with you some tips and ideas to go out there and how to attack these bass in these tough, hot conditions to help you put more fish in the boat.
Hey guys, welcome back here to another edition of Bass Fishing Declassified. I really appreciate you guys checking out today's video. And you know, summertime fishing, specifically July and August, is some of the toughest fishing of the year. I can't think of really any other 2 months that it's harder to catch bass, but I got 2 tricks I'm going to share with you guys today that's really going to help you guys catch more summer bass. So let's get into it. First of all, guys, it revolves around a square bill. This is the Megabass S-Crank 1.5. This is my favorite summertime shallow crankbait. And the trick that I want to share with you guys is what I call speed cranking with this. Now, in the water temperature in the summertime is the hottest it's going to be all year long. And I think that most of the bass feed at night. So in order to catch a bass, you can't really capitalize on their feeding instincts. You got to capitalize on their reaction strike. And by speed cranking this S-crank and shallow cover, I can generate that reaction strike. So what I do is I'll throw it out there next to a shallow target, you know, like a stump or lay down or a dock or whatever, and I'm burning it fast. I burn it for 5 or 6 cranks and just pause it for a split second and burn it real fast like this. So I'm wanting this bait just to go super fast through the water column in that shallow cover. Now, what you need to look for, you got to look for off-colored water. So try to find the dirtiest water in your particular lake. You really need the water visibility of about less than 2.5 feet for this technique to work, but that speed cranking is going to get you some really good bites in that hot weather. Now, the second with that is sort of along the same lines, but it is with this Megabass Vision 110 jerkbait, and I basically speed rip it around boat docks. So my favorite technique in the summer is to get around a big marina dock. Now, most every single lake in the country has big marina docks, and these are floating docks that are usually over a little bit deeper water. And the bass will suspend underneath these things in the summertime because there's a lot of plankton and algae growing on the floats, which attracts bluegill, which attracts the bass. Now, what I like to do with the Vision 110 is I like to make parallel casts down the outside part of the dock. So find out what part of the dock is facing the deepest water and cast this Vision 110 as close as you can to the dock. Now, if you get too far away from it, you'll never get a bite, but you've got to stay within less than 6 inches of the dock in order to generate that strike and get that fish to come out. Parallel cast the outsides and the corners, and the same way with the crankbait, guys. It's a speed technique. You want to jerk, 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 jerk. You don't want to like jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause like most jerkbait fishing. It's jerk, 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 and just a slight hesitation. And guys, so that's the key that you need to remember. In the summertime, it's all about speed. Speed cranking with the Megabass S-Crank 1.5, speed jerking with the Megabass 110. It will get you some good bites in the summer. So thanks for tuning in.
Okay guys, I'm about to share with you what I think is the best time to fish during the dog days of summer. Now for me, I love to fish during that middle part of the day. I'm talking even yesterday, we had a good fishing trip where we caught fish from that 2 to 4 o'clock period, the hottest part of the day. But guys, I don't think that's the best time to fish in the summer. I think the best time to fish is at night. Guys, I've just had 2 recent good night fishing trips. I had one where I went out and fished with one of my buddies, and then I had another one where I fished in a night tournament where we won it and I had big bass. So I'm just going to share with you a couple things about fishing at night. Just talk about some areas, talk about a couple baits, and then just other unique tips about fishing at night. So if you've never fished at night and you're scared about fishing at night, man, go give it a chance. Or even if you are the experienced angler and you don't fish at night, guys, you're missing the best time to fish during the summer. One thing that happens with night, guys, the bass in the summer, when that water temp gets hot and it's just really, really hot, there are bass that feed at night. Sometimes they are your big, big bass. A lot of guys go and fish these hot, hot summer days and they don't catch these big fish. They catch smaller fish. Guys, those big ones, man, will eat at night. Even Edwin Evers, in a recent video he posted on his YouTube channel that I watched, he even said he thinks there are bass that just feed at night only. Now, he knows a lot more about fishing than I do, so I'm just going to maybe take his word, okay? I've heard that before, but we do not know about the fish. But guys, those big ones can eat at night, and they're fun to catch. A couple things on areas to target when you're night fishing, depending on your lake, okay? All the lakes are different, but still, if we're talking about highland reservoirs, lowland reservoirs, natural lakes, okay? what they will do typically at night, all right, depending on, once again, on your depth, your lake, but they're going to feed in shallower areas. So if it's a point, if it's a humps, if it's a rock wall, if it's a flat, guys, these bass during the day, they're going to be out there suspended, or they're going to be deeper depending on, on your thermocline on your lake. They might be deeper above that thermocline, and then they're going to move up to feed. Even last year, guys, when I was doing underwater footage for Fish the Moment on one of my local lakes, I found a brush pile in 25 foot, okay? And it was loaded with giant bass. I put that camera down there and I saw them. Big fish. I mean, I'm talking 5 to 6, 7 pounders. I threw everything in there. They would never even look at a lure. But guys, that's just kind of tell me that I know there's timing and there's all this other factors, but those are fish that are feeding at night. So when you're at night, just think of fishing a shallower area. They're out here in those deeper sections during the summer days, and then they feed up to night. So just thinking on your cover, your area, and then cover. If it's rock, brush pile, grass, just think of them feeding at night. Now, guys, lures to throw at night, keep it simple, okay? I know of guys throwing this and that at night, but if you're new to fishing at night, spinnerbait, you always hear about the nighttime spinnerbait. Hey, and it's fun, and it's a blast. Just get you a big Colorado blade, your trailer. I mean, you can pick a craw trailer, you can pick a swim bait trailer, whatever trailer you want to throw. Black's always the color, but, there might be some other little strands, blue, red, white, whatever you might want to do at night. But spinnerbait's fun. That bite's unique. There's times, though, guys, they might not want the spinnerbait. They might want a worm. I love throwing a big worm at night. A big worm, man, catches fish. And then you also have topwater action. I don't do the topwater much at night. I just do not. But guys, I know of people catching them on buzz baits, whopper ploppers as well. Fun way to catch them at night. And then another pattern, I know earlier I talked about areas. Another pattern I know that happens where I'm at is the panfish spawn is happening. So when you got these full moons, okay, and even these panfish will spawn from May to September. Guys, if you're catching brim, sunfish, whatever during the day in areas, go back to those at night, and there'll be some bass up there feeding on them. That's why to find some big ones. Now here, a couple night fishing tips. Let's say you're new at night fishing, and you're like, hey, Jimmy, I just don't know about it. I'm scared, I'm nervous. Hey, a couple things is, if you're really nervous about running the lake at night, and I understand, it can be dangerous, definitely those big lakes, and if that moon's not out, it's hard to see. Hey, launch at the boat ramp and fish around it. If that's, like I said, that's what I did starting off. I just fished around boat ramps. Definitely if it's a boat ramp where tournaments are taken out of, there's fish nearby and you can catch them, okay? Another thing about fishing at night, make sure you have a headlamp, okay? One easy thing about the headlamp, you can turn it on to help retie lures, to see the kinks in your line, to see stuff in the boat. Definitely when you're putting the boat on the trailer and you're tying stuff up, a headlamp comes in handy. Guys, make sure you have your life jacket out, have your nav lights on as well, just because, man, night is more dangerous. Go ahead, do not run that boat without a life jacket. And just so right there, just a couple tips to the top of my head about fishing at night. Mainly those, if you don't want to run the lake, launch the boat at the ramp, fish near it. Telling you guys, like I said, that nighttime bite is a blast. I don't do as much as I would like. I know people, and I'm friends with people that do it religiously. I mean, they will fish at night 3 times a week. I don't know when they sleep, okay? But they do it, and they do it for a reason. Matt's about to share a unique summer fishing tip that will help you during these hot days of summer, something I know that I did not do myself when I was a young angler. It didn't really fit my style, but I just didn't really believe it was a thing. But I do know now it is, because I've gone through this bite. But before that, if you want to help support Matt, Randy, and the Bass Fishing Declassified channel, hey, go check out fishthemoment.com. We have our one-on-one virtual lessons, and then we also, Matt and Randy, have the personalized map breakdowns. There's a list of lakes that they've already broke down for different periods of the year. If you're interested in those, go check them out, and it will help support Matt and Randy and this channel to continue to provide content for you guys.
More times than not, when people see their water temperature gauge hitting excessive temperatures, everyone thinks that you have to go ultra deep. But I'm here to tell you that's not necessarily the case. A large percentage of the bass population will stay shallow even in the warmest of water temperatures. Now, there's a few ways to go about fishing for these fish, and one of my favorite ways is to throw a frog. The reason for this is the fish may only be in a foot or two of water, but generally speaking, they're going to be around some very thick cover. Maybe you've got lily pads, maybe you've got a bunch of lay down trees, some docks. Generally speaking, the areas that they're going to be hanging out in are providing some shade, and that little bit of shade will actually decrease the water temperature pretty good. It's similar to us. If we have a big field and there's one tree in that field, we're probably going to be sitting in the shade of that tree when it's 95 degrees out. Bass are no different. They're going to be in some of the thickest shallow cover they can find because that shallow cover will actually have lower water temperatures. Now the frog is key for that because anytime you're throwing your bait into these super thick areas, the frog is probably the most weedless bait that you can choose. It is a very good bait at generating those strikes, and a lot of times when you're talking about the bass only sitting in a foot or two of water, when the frog is above them, it makes an easy target, meaning those bass only have to move 12 inches to grab that frog. That's one of the reasons why they work so well. But generally speaking, if you want to catch some of these shallow water fish, try to identify some of those isolated pieces of cover that are producing shade, or try to find some irregularities within those large pad fields, some of those large shallow weed flats. Maybe you've got a little ditch, maybe you've got an area where the pads are a little bit sparser, maybe you've got some holes in those weeds or those pads. Those are going to be the areas that you're going to be looking for. One key tip though, anytime you're trying to catch these super shallow hot water fish, is to identify where there are other life forms. Meaning if you can find areas that have a bunch of minnows, maybe shad, maybe a pile of bluegill, the bass are going to be nearby. If you happen to go into a shallow flat that's 95-degree water temperature and you're not seeing any other life forms, you probably want to keep moving. It seems like the fish that are shallow, the bass that are aggressively feeding up shallow, are going to be very near to the bait. So keep that in mind, grab yourself a frog, and do not let the hot water temperatures scare you from fishing shallow.